So we're only 2 weeks into the fantasy season, and I know you thought you drafted the perfect squad. But instead, you've got players ghosting you harder than your ex. Don't worry though, this is the perfect time to strike. Today, I'm talking about the players you need to go buy low on before your league mates realize they're not trash, they're just slow starters. Plus, I'm going to give you a few names for each of these buy lows that I would be willing to trade away to go get these guys. Let's start with running back Chase Brown. If someone is panicked after the Joe Burrow injury and thinks Chase Brown is going to be a bust now and that this offense is going to be completely terrible and they want out from under this guy, go buy low on Chase Brown. He's currently 4th among all running backs in expected fantasy points per game. He's got more carries than Bijan Robinson. And the last time we saw Browning take over for Joe Burrow, Joe Mixon averaged 18.1 fantasy points per game during that stretch. Jake Browning is more than serviceable here. He knows the offense. This isn't going to be a complete tank job for the Bengals. Chase Brown is still going to get elite volume. He's still worth going out and buying low on if someone is panicked right now. Players I'd be willing to trade away, Kyren Williams. Yes, look, Kyren Williams is good. Kyren Williams is fine. But I'd rather have Chase Brown. He gets more work. He catches more passes. He may not be in a better offense at this point, but there is some threat of Blake Corum here kind of lurking for Kyren Williams. Just give me Chase Brown. Or Alvin Kamara. Look, Alvin Kamara has got name value. He's been okay this year, but he's in this Saints offense. Just give me the workhorse in the Bengals, even with Jake Browning. And then I know Courtland Sutton is coming off a down game, but again, he's got name value. He's been mostly good with Bo Nix. If I could flip Courtland Sutton for a panicking owner and get Chase Brown, I'm absolutely doing that. And same with Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill finally coming off a good game here. There are people who still believe that Tyreek Hill can bounce back and be anything close to what he was. Take advantage of it. Go get Chase Brown. Next running back I'm going to say go buy low on is Chuba Hubbard. Very quietly, this guy is 6th in expected fantasy points. He absolutely dominates this backfield. He's got 11 targets, which is less than only Christian McCaffrey, Jahmyr Gibbs, and Devon Achane on the season. Now, I will say this week he's got a tough matchup against Atlanta. Maybe this isn't his best game. So if you want to wait a week or if you can't get him this week, you might have another opportunity next week. But after that, the schedule really opens up for the Panthers here. I think this guy could be great rest of the season, and he's the only running back really getting touches that matter in this backfield. And I'll say right now, Travis Etienne is a great sell high to go get a guy like Chuba. Sure, look, maybe Travis Etienne just holds on to this job all year long, but Bashaw Tutin is lurking, and Bashaw Tutin has been very good, granted, in a small sample up to this point. And I'll say again, Tyreek Hill. If someone saw what Tyreek Hill did in week 2 and is like, he's back, go ahead, sell high on Tyreek Hill. Give me a workhorse running back if that's what you need. Or a couple wide receivers like DK Metcalf, Deebo Samuel. These guys have had nice starts to the season, but they haven't really put up like huge games. But they've got name value. They've had good starts here, at least for fantasy purposes. But there's some underlying signs that have me very worried about these guys. I'd rather just trade them if I don't need them and get a running back like Chuba. And then I'm finally ready to put Bill on the video here because we know Austin Eckler out for the season with that Achilles injury, but I still think he's a buy low because number one, he's done almost nothing so far this season, but number two, even in that game after the Eckler injury, he still didn't really get involved. It was still Jeremy McNichols, but that's because they were in come from behind mode. I think now they pretty much have to give him the ball more, right? I would hope so going forward. He's a talented player. He's looked good this year on his small sample size. I think this is a guy who can come on as the season goes on and be the workhorse running back in this offense. And look, we may not have Jaden Daniels this week. This may give you another week for a buy low opportunity, but the window is closing fast to go get Bill. And if you could flip a running back like Jaylen Warren, who's coming off a very nice game this week for Bill, I would absolutely do it. Like, what's the upside here for Jaylen Warren? Or even J.K. Dobbins. J.K. Dobbins, yeah, right now, you might prefer J.K. Dobbins to Bill, but I think long-term, you're going to prefer Bill, especially if R.J. Harvey starts getting more involved. And look, if you picked up a tight end like Juwan Johnson that you feel pretty good about and you've got Travis Kelce, I would just flip Travis Kelce for Bill. What are we really going to get out of Travis Kelce this year? We know Worthy's coming back soon. We know Rice is coming back soon. Travis Kelce's only going to get worse from here on out. And then I hesitated putting Kenneth Walker on the video last week because I was like, well, what if we just see more of the same in week 2? And we did see more of the same as far as like snaps and splits go. The difference is we saw how one guy is so much more talented than the other guy here. Zach Charbonnet was absolutely awful in week 2. I don't know why the Seahawks are still giving this guy the ball so much. Like, he was horrible. Kenneth Walker, every time he got the ball, was great. Why is Charbonnet still getting the ball so much? But there are still people out there who are worried because of the snap share, because of the the amount of carries each guy got. There are still people out there who think Charbonnet is the better running back. So sure, maybe not everybody's going to sell low on Kenneth Walker because he is coming off a nice game, but people who look deeper may still be worried. I would try to take advantage if I could. And again, I'll say a wide receiver like Deebo Samuel, I think he's a perfect sell high right now. He's had 2 nice games to start the season. Terry McLaurin has been not himself coming back from missing all of camp. This is going to change at some point. Terry McLaurin's going to be the guy having better fantasy games. Get out from Deebo now if you can. Or a running back like DeAndre Swift coming off a nice week 2 game here. He's the workhorse running back for the Bears. If people are worried about Kenneth Walker, I'd go ahead and trade these guys. I got to believe after what we saw in week 2, we're going to see more Walker in week 3, but maybe not, and maybe not everybody agrees with me. Or a running back like David Montgomery. Look, David Montgomery is solid. There's nothing wrong with David Montgomery, but if Kenneth Walker does take over this backfield as he should, he's going to have way more upside than David Montgomery. But David Montgomery is a known commodity in fantasy. People know he's safe, know he's solid. If they're worried about Walker, they might take this. And they might also take Devonta Smith. I know it's been a rough start for Devonta Smith, but a lot of people are very high on Devonta Smith. This was a guy that was going in like the 4th round of fantasy drafts. There are people out there who will think like, hey, it's going to get better, and it could get better for the Eagles. But really, how much better? This is going to be a low volume passing attack, a run first offense. Just give me a potential workhorse running back. And then finally going to round out the running backs with Quinshon Judkins. Look, I don't think a lot of people realize how good Quinshon Judkins was last week. Despite only playing 19 snaps, this guy had 13 touches, over 70 yards. This guy's only going to get more and more work. And sure, I'm a little worried about the offense, of course, because it's the Browns. They're not going to be very good. But if he's going to get this kind of usage and look that good, it's probably not going to matter. And right now, because he's on the Browns and because he didn't have like a huge highlight reel run, he didn't score a touchdown, people are still kind of sleeping on him. I think there's still a buy low opportunity here. And if I could trade his teammate Jerry Jeudy for him, like Jerry Jeudy's my wide receiver 4, wide receiver 5, I would absolutely do that. I'm starting to get nervous that we're going to see Jerry Jeudy, like the Jerry Jeudy we've seen his whole career, not the one we saw with Jameis last year. Or Zach Charbonnet. Again, there's people who still believe Charbonnet is the better running back. There are still people who believe Charbonnet is going to take over this backfield. If somebody believes that and is worried about Quinshon Judkins because he's on the Browns, I'll flip these guys. Or a wide receiver like Stefon Diggs. Look, Diggs is solid. He's got name value. He's put up okay numbers. Like if somebody's like, hey, just give me the safety of Diggs, I'll go ahead and flip him for the upside of Judkins. Now let's move on to wide receiver, and I think Drake London is one of the best buy lows in fantasy right now. Despite the game last night where they didn't have to do anything on offense really, he's still 9th in expected fantasy points and 10th among all wide receivers in target share. And you look at it, games of Michael Penix Jr., this is the first time he had less than 8 targets. In fact, in 3 of the 5 games of Penix Jr., he's had 13 or more targets. This guy is going to be great rest of the season. Don't give up on him already. They're not going to have many games like last night where they can just kick field goals and win the game easily. They're going to get more resistance here from other teams, and they're going to throw it more. And when they do, that's going to be great for Drake London. If you could trade another struggling high-end wide receiver like A.J. Brown for him, like if somebody is like, okay, Drake London was all hype and he's not going to be any good, and they still believe A.J. Brown can bounce back, I would do that. I'm much more worried about the receivers in the Eagles offense than the receivers in the Falcons offense. And I'll say again, Kyren Williams, if somebody needs running back help and they got Drake London, Kyren Williams is solid. I'll bet you can definitely flip Kyren Williams for Drake London. And again, I think you could probably flip Alvin Kamara. This guy has name value. He's been okay to start the season. He hasn't been bad. Go ahead, flip him for London. I still think London could be a top 10, top 5 wide receiver this year. And then finally, T. Higgins. If somebody is not panicked about T. Higgins, if they're like, Jake Browning, he'll be fine. Like, go ahead, get out from under T. Higgins right now. Look, Drake London has struggled so far to start the season. Somebody might take T. Higgins for him. And then coming off a terrible week 2, fantasy managers are probably pretty panicked about Marvin Harrison Jr. right now because they're like, oh no, here we go again. This is like 2024 rookie year all over again. He'll have one good game and then he'll disappear. But I think it's going to be a little bit different this year. If you look at his route percentage from last year versus week 1 this year, we see drastically different. I mean, look at last year. They asked him to run a bunch of go routes, a bunch of corners, a bunch of out routes. This year, post, digs, slants, those were his most run routes in week 1. I think that's what we're going to see this year. And if we do, he's going to be better more often than not this year. I know week 2 wasn't great, but I got to wonder, it just seemed like they were a little out of sync, like not on the same page. Plus, J.C. Horn is a good corner for the Panthers. think better days are ahead for Marvin Harrison. I'm buying low if I can. And again, I'll say, I know a lot of people are probably panicked about T. Higgins. Maybe they won't take T. Higgins for Marvin Harrison. But if the person in your league is panicked about Marvin Harrison and believes in Jake Browning, maybe they will. But I'll bet they would take his teammate James Conner. James Conner scored in back-to-back games. He's got name recognition. People might not realize that Trey Benson is starting to eat in this guy's role, and I think it's only going to get more and more. He's already lost passing down work to Trey Benson. If he starts losing carries to Trey Benson, it could spell trouble for James Conner. And I already talked about Travis Etienne here. I'll say this one definitely is risky. Maybe Etienne holds on to the job all year, but I believe that Tootin is going to at least make this closer to a 50-50 as the season goes on. So give me the number one wide receiver for the Cardinals. And then once again, I'll say DK Metcalf. DK Metcalf has name recognition. People always value this guy a little bit too high. He's had an okay start to the year. He hasn't been terrible. If someone's panicked on Harrison, you might be able to flip DK for him. And then I think you absolutely have to go buy low on Matthew Golden right now. With Jayden Reed out in that game in week 2, he ran the second most routes of all Packers wide receivers, and this guy was open all over the field. Not only that, he was open on that touchdown throw, and Jordan Love underthrew him. He was open on that 98-yard bomb, and Jordan Love overthrew him. It's like Jordan Love was only accurate to everybody not named Matthew Golden. That is going to change. This is a good prospect. He's a good player. This guy has big play potential every week. One of my favorite buy lows of this entire list, to be honest. Jayden Reed, we know, is going to be out 6 to 8 weeks. This is going to give Golden a great chance to assert himself as the wide receiver one in this offense. And it's not going to take much to get him right now because he's done nothing so far this year. Like a running back like Dylan Sampson, who has scored in 2 straight games. If people don't realize that Dylan Sampson is well behind Quinshon Judkins going forward and isn't going to catch a touchdown pass every single week, go ahead, flip him for Golden. Or a wide receiver like Khalil Shakir. A lot of people really like Khalil Shakir. I mean, look, Khalil Shakir is fine, but give me some upside here. Give me some potential league winner here. Khalil Shakir is not going to win you a fantasy championship. Or an old guy like Cooper Kupp coming off a nice game in week 2. Maybe it's gotten people like believing again, like, hey, Cooper Kupp can be solid. I'm not going to chase that week 2 game. JSN clearly the number 1 here. Torrey Horton maybe the number 2 here pretty soon. Just give me Matthew Golden. Then another one of my favorite buy lows this week is Michael Pittman, because he's coming off a down game in week 2 where he had to face a lot of pass Surtain. You know, people are still kind of like on the fence, like what's going to be this guy's, fantasy value this year after being a complete bust last year. But the reason why I like Michael Pittman so much as a buy low is because of Danny Dimes. Yep, Danny Dimes. Like, I got to say it, man. Like, look, maybe like Saquon, this guy just needed to get away from the Giants. Maybe that's the secret here. Just get away from the Giants. But it's working so far. I mean, even against the Broncos, this guy had another nice game. If Daniel Jones is going to be this good all season long, that's going to be great for Michael Pittman. And again, because he's only had that one nice game last week, had a down game in week 2, and people are still nervous about what happened last year, it's not going to take a lot to get him. I would happily trade away a guy like Jordan Addison, who is coming back from suspension in a couple weeks. So people are, probably willing to take this guy now because it's like, all right, I don't have him for week 3, but I'll get him back for week 4. But how are we feeling about this Vikings offense right now? I mean, J.J. McCarthy is going to be out. Now we're going to be looking at Carson Wentz for however long. But even when McCarthy comes back, this offense can barely support Justin Jefferson. Are we going to support Jordan Addison too? Nah, get me out from under Jordan Addison if I can. And I've already talked about Jerry Jeudy. Very nervous about Jerry Jeudy this year. It's not looking like we're going to see the Jerry Jeudy from last year. I know it's still early, but I'd rather just have Michael Pittman in what looks like will be a better passing offense. Then again, if somebody is still high on Charbonnet, still thinks this guy's going to be the RB1 in Seattle, and assuming you don't have Kenneth Walker, go ahead, try to get Michael Pittman. And I'll say again, Stephon Diggs, he's been solid this year. He hasn't been bad. He's got name recognition. People believe in Drake May. There's a chance Diggs could get you Pittman. And then finally, if you're looking for a PPR floor, flex type of play, I think Chris Olave is your guy. Quietly ranks 5th in expected fantasy points per game. Spencer Rattler has attempted 80 passes through the first 2 games. But what's really great here is the Saints currently are snapping the ball faster than any team in the NFL, and they've run the 7th most plays per game. Sure, the ceiling is limited here because it's Spencer Rattler and the Saints. But again, if you're just looking for a guy you can put in your flex, he's going to catch a bunch of passes, he's going to get a decent amount of yards, he's probably not going to kill you, that is going to be Chris Olave. And right now, his value is not very high. Again, I'll say Jordan Addison. This guy's going to be back. He's only going to miss one more game. If somebody still believes in Jordan Addison, I'll just take Chris Olave here. Same with Stephon Diggs. Again, these guys feel a little similar, but I think I prefer Chris Olave because, again, the Saints are throwing the ball so much, and Diggs hasn't looked, anything close to his former self here. So give me Olave, and then I'll say this is probably your only chance to maybe trade Hollywood Brown if you can, coming off a dud game there. But look, he's on the Chiefs. He had a nice week 1. Somebody might still believe in Hollywood Brown, and Chris Olave hasn't really done anything amazing this year. This might get it done. So there's some trades you got to go out and try to make right now if you can. But you know what you really need to do this week, no matter what? Stay tuned to Fantasy Endgame for all the videos you need to help you win. We got you covered. Make sure you check out our Week 3 playlist right here.